Hello and welcome to NOCD's Roadmap to a New You.
Whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop. Also, we're going to be talking about why roadmaps to a new you are not exactly the best way to approach the new year. So it's sort of a tricky title. I'm Tracie Ibrahim. I am a therapist that treats OCD and other related disorders for hundreds of years, it feels like, but it was probably closer to about 25 years. I have lived experience, I have OCD, and yeah, and I'm the Chief Compliance Officer of NOCD. So those are some random things. And I am here with the most fabulous human.
Thank you. Thank
Hmm.
you.
And who are you?
Princess Wave. I'm Mackenzie. I am a support group facilitator at NOCD, and I also, fortunately and unfortunately, have obsessive compulsive disorder. Fortunately, because it helps me with my job. But yeah, I've had it my entire life. So much fun.
I love that. Yeah, we never would have put you in charge of support groups for people with OCD if you didn't even have it. Goodness gracious. Wow, Mackenzie, we gotta, so we feel you. We understand what's going on here. And we're here to talk a lot about the new year. I think there's a lot of pressures with the new year. I think a lot of people get taken advantage of during the new year in terms of marketing. I am ready to vomit at the number of weight loss ads I have seen for all the different, it's just they started coming in, oh, this is the year, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that, you're gonna change everything. It's a new year, there's a new number. And that's what we're here to talk about today, because that's ridiculous. Would you agree, Mackenzie?
I do. Oh my gosh. I do. I saw something really cool the other day about like instead of New Year's resolutions, like having a word that you're like your goal for the year, just a word, like present, like being more present, or like joy, or like whatever it is. And that's so much more attainable than like having all of these. It's kind of like setting yourself up for failure. Like we can't do all of these things. Also, like it's like the first week of January and then everyone like dies off. It's just not attainable to keep up all of these things all the time.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, and this is why we want to talk about it, because OCD has enough pressure on you to do enough things, and then you get this to complicate it. I am a big, oh, I used to make goals, by the way. I don't make those kind of goals anymore. Really, what is the difference between last year and the new year? It's 1 second. It goes from 11:59 p.m. wherever you live to midnight. That's it. It was 1 second difference. Why all of a sudden is there all this pressure like, oh, a second passed. Now my whole life has to change. So, I mean, in general, I think that the whole thought of New Year's resolutions are just nuts. But I mean, and again, if you love New Year's resolutions, I'm not knocking it. I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying that's how I feel about it. It's 1 second different than before. I have the same goals. I'm still working on them. I'm not going to put extra pressure on myself. But let's talk about some of the different ways that people, really, especially like you go on social media and you see people really just plugging away all these different ways that you need to make these big changes, big pressure, and that maybe people with OCD are feeling extra about. Just recently noticed videos of people doing what is called a life audit, which sounds terrible, actually.
Don't sign me up for that.
Don't sign me up for a life audit. I already lived my life. I don't need an audit where people are cleaning everything and crossing thousands of tasks off and making all these big changes for their life. And wow, I've
Do
done.
you know what with to-do lists, have you ever like I'm so guilty of this. Like I'll write things down that I've already done just so I can like check them off. But like, you know,
Yes. That's a real strategy. That actually makes you feel better when you're able to cross something off. I will do the same. I'll make a to-do list, but I actually already did two of them. I write them down, cross them off, and I'm like, okay, that feels good. And that's okay. It's okay to have a to-do list. It's okay to have goals. It's okay to have life challenges and ways to address that. But we're here to sort of pop the pop the pressure bubble of it's a new year, so y'all have to just suddenly do a bunch of different things. Um, Another way that it can show up is in fitness and fashion and beauty and wellness, 2026, year of the, I don't know, insert name of style or a new special color or a new special, I don't even know what makeup product or a new way to do your eyelashes or a new whatever beauty trend. And the pressure for you to have yourself put together in this very specific way that other people might be, but I know it's 2026. It reminds me of something that's kind of crazy. Well, at least I think it was kind of crazy. And I use that word lightly. But I was at the airport and I was just sitting there and somebody was walking by and they looked all decked out and all the latest stuff. And I was like, that's cool, whatever. And then one of them made a comment about somebody else and was like, oh, like that that's last year's like Gucci glasses or something. And I was just like, oh, like you memorized what year style like Gucci put out glasses? Like, wow, I've had these glasses for years. Like I am not making the cut. But these are real ways that people find pressure to, and obviously if you work in the fashion industry, that makes sense. You have to have like latest cutting edge styles or whatever. But people with OCD just, having to feel like you have it all together is rough.
Yeah, this is last year's NOCD swag, so I'm already
Loser.
failing. Yeah, I'm really failing at life right now.
Yeah.
Well, and also it's yeah, like social media just plays such a huge role in that too, and just comparison. And I think remembering that social media is a highlight reel, like it's not people's reality, everyday life, and you like choosing what's best for you and what you want to do and filtering out all the other noise.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that is one of the downfalls, I think, of social media is that, people tend to put things that look amazing all the time. It's like, this is my family being amazing. This is me looking fabulous. This is me solving my New Year's resolution. Like it looks all awesome and it's with a cool tune, and you're like, You're like, if they can do that in 30 seconds, I should also have to do that immediately. And we have to really sort of suss out, is a goal right for you? Or is it something OCD is demanding? Or is it even just a weird societal thing? Um, and one of the first things that you always ask yourself when you're trying to figure out sort of all of this, is this your goal? Is it your OCD? Is it even reasonable? Does it align with your values? And I think a lot of times people with OCD will be like, well, I don't even know my values because OCD made me question my values, which that's OCD for you. But your values don't actually change just because OCD makes you question those values. For instance, like I value being a good therapist, I value being a good friend, I value, I don't know, being a good parent.
Me.
I value you most of the time. Um,
Ouch.
but there are certain things, like I value, but everybody's different and that's okay. Like I don't value fashion. It's okay to value fashion, and if you value fashion and you want to look fashionable, you should. I value not buying a lot of clothes. I like, I have my same pair of Doc Martens from high school because they still fit. Uh,
Stop.
I do actually two pair, but they're different colors. Whereas somebody else might really value like having the latest in something, and maybe you're going to buy a new pair every year, or I don't know however often. That's okay, but it's about asking yourself, do you feel pressure? Is it demanding? Does it feel like something you're trying to live up to? Or does it feel like something that aligns with your values? How do you know when it's your values, Mackenzie? How do you decide these things?
Well, I think, well, because as much as OCD tries to convince us otherwise, we do know what we value at our core. And um, I think like your core values stay the same, but in different moments, right? Like we add and we swap out and we do. And I think a big value of mine is staying present and just continuing to be present. And that's, that's something I value. OCD. Yeah, I guess that's the biggest thing is we don't call it the doubting disorder for no reason. And, a lot of people will say, like, I don't know my values. I don't know, what's important to me. But if you take a step back and you zoom out, we do. Um, and OCD wants us to doubt that. But we know if we value our family, we know if we value our job or, friendships, whatever that is. But I think identifying those things is really important because then it helps you navigate through life and putting your values over fear.
That is so true. I recently did that. I had to check myself a couple of times before I did it, but last week, I had to make a values over fears decision. So a friend called me and said, "Would you like to go to a public sauna
I love this
and
story.
and then do a cold plunge?" Cold plunge sounds great. Hot sauna sounded like all my contamination OCD fears on fire, for so many different reasons and on so many different levels. So I don't go to saunas normally. I don't enjoy it. But I really love my friend. I really love adventure. I value trying new things. I value that. And so I had to sort of check myself. My initial response was no, thanks. No good. No. Two thumbs way down on sauna. Then I was like, hold on, let me think about it. And I was like, okay, is it that you hate saunas? I was like, well, you don't like to be hot. And I was like, okay, but you've always wanted to try this cold plunge. That's true. You do value adventure. Yes. You value new things. Yes. You value spending time with your friends. Yes. So what's making you say no to this? Uh, Contamination OCD mostly. Oh, okay. Sounds like it's a yes. I was like, yes, lock me in quickly before
Before I change
before
my
I
mind.
changed my mind. And you know what? And I showed up and I did it. And I did it and I actually ended up enjoying it and had to sit with both things could be true at the same time. I was doing things I value. I was uncomfortable. And I got more comfortable actually. Mostly when I was in the cold plunge part where it wasn't with all the steaming
Yeah,
things
until the water went up here.
until the water went, yeah, until I inhaled water, which I was sure had poop in it, but you know what? That's a side note. Um, but the good news is that I followed my values, right, in that moment. Um, and so I think that that's really important. Um, and so sometimes it takes a minute to sort of check yourself and go like, like why do I care about it? And how do we know really when maybe OCD is stopping us? What emotions are behind it? That's what I checked into. It was like some fear, some fear, some disgust. I felt like, all these other feelings. And I was like, yeah, but you should probably follow your values instead. Versus, what if it was not my value?
I feel like a lot of times the first thing that comes to my mind is usually always OCD related. Like as far as like, okay, like we took a trip for with no CDs to New Orleans and my instant like first response like thing was like, I'm not going. And I was like, why wouldn't I go? Like, I don't get the opportunity to see these people all the time. Like, I love what I do. I love the people I work with. And so, like, that knee-jerk reaction of, like, no, like, it's because, like, my brain was, okay, well, if I get in a plane crash on the way there, is that worth leaving my kids and, like, leaving? And it was ridiculous, right? And of course, I value my kids. Of course, I value being alive. But I also value like living and being present in the sense of like not saying no because of fear and not doing things. So like checking the intention behind like a decision is always really helpful for me. Like, is my decision to not go anxiety, like trying to get rid of anxiety, anxiety based, or is it because I really can't go because there's a conflict in time or date or whatever. But I think the more we do it, the easier it gets. Sometimes I get really like it's harder to pick it out. I'm like, ooh, I don't know, because OCD tries to get you with like, okay, fine, but this is true. Like this is a little unsafe, right? Like when you were sharing about the cold plunge, like my OCD loves to freak out about brain eating amoebas. So like mine would be like, okay, like yeah, yeah, sure, you value all that, but there's validity in this like reason why you shouldn't. And then you have to just like I think for me that's where I have to like just jump in and lean into the uncertainty.
Right. Because there are risks in life. And like, sure, flying, people could crash in a plane, but you could also crash in a car and not come home to your kids just the same, yet you still drive. So I think also just sort of really looking at the whole sort of picture, and what's going on. Are you doing something out of urgency, fear, shame, guilt? You want to be 100% certain. Um, you want it to feel just right, something along those. Then we're sniffing out OCD here because it's real that I'm positive there were some kind of yucky things inside of a sauna. Of course there were.
Mhm.
People sit on benches with their butts. And so for sure there's something in there that it exists. I don't know what it is, but there's some, I mean, right? It's not like a sterile environment, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. It's not a
There's something unfortunate in there. What it is, we
something.
don't know. Yeah.
Right. Sweat particles. I don't know what's in there. There's definitely some, I sat in there with there was a lot of sweaty people. Um, but that fact can coexist with, but other people are doing it, but other people are enjoying it, and my values still align with it. So I'm going to go in and sit there and I'm going to do this. Um, and so I think that that's really, really important. Um, and I also think that it's important to show yourself kindness when you are moving toward these goals. I had to be really nice to myself. I was just sort of going in circles like, what are you going to wear? Wear something that covers every part of your skin. What if you do this? And I was like, you know what? You have had well-controlled OCD for over 20 years, and you're sitting here struggling with what am I going to wear? And how many times will you fold the towel to prevent you from touching the bench? And and I was like, wait, hold on.
Towels absorb it anyway.
Right.
You're yeah.
I was like, listen, what if you just hold on a second? Why are you shaming yourself right now? You are a person. You are going toward a fear, and that's okay. You're living your values, and you have to be nice to yourself. You have to show yourself self-kindness because I think, even if I wouldn't have gone because of OCD, I still would have needed to be nice to myself and say, you know what? This time you didn't face your fears, and that's okay. And maybe next time you will. So we have to be nice to ourselves. We're not always going to make the perfect decision. We're not always going to go toward everything all the time. And so I think self-kindness is really important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that because I instantly go to my default is to beat myself up. Like you should know better. You do this for a living. Like what is going on here? And the reminder is like it's all a part of managing OCD and we're gonna have days where it's a little bit harder and then we're gonna have days where it's a little bit easier and that's okay. All those days are okay.
All those days are okay. The days, nobody's ever going to do anything perfectly. That's the truth. We'll never be perfect. So there is that. Um, I will also say if you are going to make goals for yourself, and I'm not saying people should never have goals, obviously we all have goals, whatever it is, in your life. It'd be weird to be totally goalless. I mean, probably, I don't know. You could have a goal to like have a delicious breakfast, I mean, I'm just saying. But I think also is let's make sure that it's reasonable. Let's make sure that it's attainable. And, how do we even do that? Like, especially if it's a giant goal. I didn't get to the place where I could go to a sauna by going from zero untreated OCD to sit in a sauna for 20 minutes twice, so 40 minutes. That didn't happen. That would have been a much larger goal that I would have had. I would have had to break that down. Maybe I would have gone near a sauna. Maybe I would have thought about a sauna. Maybe I would have stepped in the sauna and stepped out of the sauna. And that's it, breaking it down, making it a future goal. I mean, I had to do a lot of work with my contamination OCD in order to get myself to the place where I would do something that feels really large to
Right.
me. I had to do lots of ERP and lots of smaller things. So it's really breaking things down to smaller steps and celebrating when you do that little tiny thing. It doesn't have to, people be like, I think I had a small win. No, nope.
You did have a small win. There's no small wins, but you did have a win.
You had a win, period.
Yeah.
Like, don't measure your wins or anything. You won. Good for you. You thought about it for 5 minutes and it was stressful. Good. But I didn't go. But you thought about it for 5 minutes and considered it. And that was great. That was a great first step.
Well, and another win in that just alone could be like the self-awareness to like, okay, I know that this was my OCD. I didn't go, but like I'm gonna try next time. Or like just so like having the self-awareness to know when OCD is showing up. Like that's huge too.
Yeah. And
Acknowledging it.
right. And really understanding that it takes time. Sometimes it's a bumpy road. I've never seen anyone just jump on to, a goal and just be like, wow, look at you, just smooth sailing all the way from start to finish. We're human. We're not supposed to do things perfectly. There's not a just right way to make things. There's not a whole, there's not the right way. Everybody's way looks different. So when you're looking online and you're looking at other people who did things, you're like, oh, well, that person jumped right in and did this thing. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Okay.
Good. And you're different. And maybe you'll take 42 times, and that's not wrong or worse or not as amazing. It's that you took 42 times and that was amazing that you did it. Yay, 42nd time. Good for you. Who cares if somebody else? It's the comparisons. Goodness gracious, you have comparing.
Yeah, everybody's journey is gonna look different.
Absolutely. And this makes me think a little bit too um, about OCD therapy and evidence-based treatment. It makes me think about ERP. I've had a lot of people over the years, will be like, well, that sounds scary, or that sounds like something I'm not ready for. I was actually at a coffee shop a couple weeks ago, and I was drinking coffee, and I walked in, and I happened to be wearing my NOCD shirt, and the barista was like, oh, what is that?
Oh, what is
And I
that?
was like, well, we treat OCD with evidence-based treatment. And she's like, oh, I have OCD. And I was like, oh, well, me too. And did you know that you can get that treated? And she said, yeah, I've read about it. I've read about ERP therapy, but I'm waiting until I'm ready. And I said,
Oh no, we'll never be
oh,
there.
how long you been waiting and how much longer would you like to continue to suffer with OCD? So I think too, even when it comes to treatment for your OCD, that can be something that we have to sort of sometimes if you're not ready to just jump in, maybe think about it. Maybe, go to NoCD's blogs and see people who've gone through it, read more about it. Call NoCD or schedule a call to ask questions about it. What would that even look like for me? It doesn't mean you have to commit. You could call, you know, hey, does my insurance cover this? What would be my copay? How often would I be seen? Tell me more about it. What kind of therapists do you have available? Which you can actually go to nocd.com and see that. You can go to your state and search, and you'll see little videos and such of us. But even just breaking something like that down is really important to think about. Um, I am passionate about evidence-based treatment as somebody who took me just short of 27 years to get with the right kind of therapy for my OCD after tragic and unfortunate things. Um, you know, well over 100 providers providing the wrong therapies, wrong diagnoses. And that's why my life mission is to get people to evidence-based treatments that can help. And that's what I provide. That's why I like to help people in our support group program who are going through things. So I just think that that's also really important. Um,
Well,
and
I'll never be quiet about ERP therapy because it literally saved my life. So I'm going to talk about it forever and ever and ever
yeah,
and ever.
same, absolutely, absolutely saved my life as well. And I will also say that um, it is really important to find community and people who get it. Sometimes, sometimes the pressures we have can be even about OCD, right? Maybe your family, your loved ones don't understand it, and their goals for you are to stop compulsing, stop involving them in your compulsions, stop asking them to do things that, are
Just
compulsions.
let it go.
Just let it go. Just forget about it. Just stop doing it. That's easy. I'm like, oh,
Done. I'm cured. Thank you.
why didn't I think of that? That's so easy. Wow. Why have I been suffering this long with taboo themes of OCD when I could have just stopped thinking about it or
Yeah, all you had to do was let it go.
let it go, like, yeah, like that song.
Yeah.
Yeah. So also want to say it's important to surround yourself, at least by, when I say surround, it could be one person, but surround yourself by at least one person like us, um, who understands what it's like, who can be supportive of your journey because it's hard. It's very, very hard. Um, when you feel alone and maybe your goal is to help get your OCD more under control, but you are conflicted about it because it sounds difficult. And I can't think of anything that's not at least a little bit difficult, but I can't think of anything more difficult than out of control OCD.
Yeah, and I try to remember too. I remember thinking like they're both their own kind of hard. And I think sometimes we get really comfortable in the chaos around OCD because it's uncomfortable, but we know it and that like it's something we're used to. We know that hard versus ERP therapy if we haven't done it before. Yes, it's hard too, but we don't know it, and I think that makes it feel like scarier. And so whenever I like when my OCD shows up and just kind of reverting back to like exposure response therapy is they're both hard. They are both exhausting at first. They're both over, but one has purpose and one keeps me stuck. And so that's that reminder like, okay, do I want to have all of this hard and all of this scary and all of these things and not and just stay there? Or do I want to have the hard that's gonna get easier and that takes me out of this like OCD hole or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, tornado cycle.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think it can also be helpful just to talk about for people who've never been to therapy or P therapy anyway, is maybe just to talk a little bit about like what does the first session even look like? Because I also think that people assume that they're just gonna enter their first session and we're
Lick that
like,
toilet.
lick a toilet. First of all, I've never made anyone lick a toilet. It's disgusting. I won't even lick a toilet. That's just gross. I think people see extreme things on the internet and they assume like you're just like, "Hi, my name's Tracie and today we're licking a toilet." Also, what's your name? Yeah, it doesn't go like that. Okay. First of all, no one's ever going to ask you to do that. It's disgusting.
I have a good first ERP therapy story.
Oh,
So, because I went through it with NOCD and I remember going and my therapist was like, okay, like what does your OCD like latch onto? And I was like, germs. And she's like, okay, like, is that it? And I'm like, is that it? Like this one's about to take me out. What do you mean? And I truly had no idea that OCD could show up in all of these other ways. Like my contamination had just been the loudest. And then as she starts naming them off, I was like, oh my God. Like I have this collection of all the ways, like every theme, everything. But then it's also empowering because one, you get to learn that like it's treated the same way no matter how it shows up. And also when you find different ways that OCD is showing up in your life, then you get to work on that. So I try to like shift the perspective of like, okay, that's unfortunate. That's my OCD's latching onto that. But now I get to work on it. Now I get to help myself navigate through it. But yeah, when they were like, "Oh no, it can show up a lot of other ways," I was like, "Oh no, like what?"
So true. And it can show it's yeah, oh my gosh, that's real. I still to this day find things and I'm like, oh no, you're compulsively organizing your closet. You didn't know. Why did you not know? This is obvious. You know this. And I'm like, okay, putting shirts in the pants section just a little bit, shake it up for a minute. Like, oh no, my no CD shirts are not all in the left corner. I have one to the right, you know. That's a real story, by the way, that recently happened in my closet.
I
Um,
totally believe it.
but yeah, in a first session at NOCD, so we don't even do ERP in your first session. We don't even do ERP in your second session. In your very first couple of sessions, we actually are just doing assessments. We're getting to know each other and what you could use help with, and helping identify what's going on. Most people who step into a talk therapy or all the other wacky therapies that say that they are going to do something for your OCD that make it worse, they're not providing evidence-based assessments. And if they are, they also are not providing um, maybe an accurate diagnosis and treatment, which is why ERP exists. It's actually NOCD's mission is to bring evidence-based treatment um, to everyone everywhere so that you can access it and get better. But the first two sessions, sometimes even more than that, depending what's going on, is we are just trying to figure out sort of what's going on. Maybe there are also other things going on that maybe you need help with. We do treat other things outside of OCD. I mean, tons of things. But maybe you also have some depression going on, and maybe that's complicating it. Maybe you have some other anxiety or related disorder that is complicating it, and maybe it's not even OCD. Go to somebody who knows how to tell the difference and go, oh, that's not OCD. Guess what? Sometimes people come in with something and they'll go, I definitely have relationship OCD. And I'll assess them and go, good news, you don't have relationship OCD. Your relationship is truly troubling, and what you need is a relationship therapist. What a relief for you to know that you don't have that. Sometimes people come in and you go, you have relationship OCD for real. You really do. We need to work on this. But that's where it gets really, really important is knowing what's going on, seeing what's going on in the whole picture. And then we start really slowly. We start with really, really small, small things. So I think that's really important for people to know because it's like, help, what's going on? I don't know what's going on and I'm terrified. So something to just note. And also, I have to say this, it's taboo, Tracie. I have to say this as somebody with taboo themes of OCD, taboo, I don't think they're taboo, but the world does. Suicidal OCD, homicidal OCD, intrusive sexual thoughts, all of the above. Um, that we're not afraid of that. We are all people will come to me. This is the most common thing. Someone comes to a session and they're like, I just don't, I'm not comfortable telling you what's going on. And I'm like, I bet you have something I have. Let's say all the words. Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? Is it? And they're like, oh,
I
really?
was I was just saying this the other day in a support group. I was like, one of my favorite things about hosting support groups is when someone gets on and they're like, this is my first time ever coming to a support group. Like, this is going to be really hard. I don't know if I can say it. No one is going to understand this, but I'm just going to try. And they say it, and then everybody's heads in the Zoom boxes are all like, yeah, or like laughing, or I'm like, oh my gosh, like same, because you realize OCD isn't as creative as it thinks it is. It's very much copy and paste. And if you haven't had that same obsession or done the same compulsion, you can 100% understand how an OCD brain would get to that place. And there's something really like empowering about that, I think.
I agree. And we should probably throw out there for people listening who are not NoCD members, when we are speaking of support groups. So we have a support group program. I run it. Mackenzie is one of the most fabulous people, one of our fabulous people that run various groups. We offer right around 30 support groups a week, most days of the week. I think we're across all seven at this point of days of the week, actually. And they are free for people in therapy with no CD actively. I run two taboo themed OCD support groups. And so that is another huge, huge benefit, I think, of being in therapy with us. Never have I worked anywhere where you're like, also, would you like to go to 30 free support groups or whatever ones, are relevant to you? But I think it's a nice way to find community and not feel alone. I know when sometimes people will go to one of my groups and they'll be like, so can we just talk about this real quick? Because I'm getting a little nervous. But I'm a little nervous to share what I'm thinking. And I'm like, if you say whatever it is you think's going on, I bet you a bunch of other people in here have had this. And they're like,
Lay it on me. Let
I'm
me
a
hear.
parent and I get sexually intrusive thoughts about my kid. And I'm like, anyone in here want to raise your hand that has had this happen? And a bunch of hands go up and they're like, oh, I feel so much better. And you're like, there it is. So I think leveling the playing ground because it can feel so heavy, it can just feel really, really heavy. Um, and that's rough. But you're not alone. We do understand. And we are not surprised. And I think it's important to share that, there are not different types of OCD. There's different themes that it shows up. That doesn't mean that we treat it differently. Everything is treated the same. I have kind of like Mackenzie, 40 billion different, themes of OCD, and I use the same ERP for all of them. My contamination, I treat the same as my suicidal and homicidal OCD, my sexually intrusive thoughts, it's all the same. And it's not a big deal. So I just want to pop any little shame bubble that might exist for people because yeah, we're not going to be surprised and we're like, yeah, okay, whatever. But yep, I was thinking, oh gosh, what if I don't know, stabbed my dog? And I'm like, yeah, it's thinking about my cat and breaking her neck the other day makes sense. We have OCD, not a big deal. That just means we love our animals so much that
Yeah,
OCD.
I can honestly say I don't think I've ever heard anyone say anything that shocked me ever.
No,
Mm.
no. I'm still waiting for, I mean, I've been doing ERP therapy for people for almost 21 years now, and I like to think about the fact that I'm still waiting for somebody to say something that is shocking. Like, can you just say a thing that is like, nope, not interesting. Nope, same. Nope, heard that. Can't you come up with something new and exciting? And you know what? OCD is lame and boring, so for some reason it just doesn't want to come up with anything new. So, yes, what else do we want to talk about today, Mackenzie?
Ooh, we have questions. What time? I think we were doing are we at
Yes,
question part? Yeah, we got
we
questions.
we do. We have questions. Just as a reminder, if you put your questions under the Q&A section as opposed to the chat, then we will see them and we will answer them. So let's see here. Let's start with this first one. How do you manage the conflict in your brain, like OCD versus your real thoughts and values, so that OCD doesn't take over and win the decision? Mm-hmm.
Oops. I don't know what I did. I just clicked the question. Sorry.
You ruined everybody's life, Mackenzie. So just,
Great.
yeah. You want to answer it? You want to start
Sure.
that answer?
Sure. Sorry. Yes. Okay. Well, now I have to reread it because I feel like I just lost my train of thought. But conflict in the brain like OCD versus real thoughts. Okay. So when in doubt, I treat it like it's OCD. That is a really big thing for me. There's a healthy level of concern in lots of things in life, especially like things that my OCD like to latch onto. And so I think one of the hardest things, but it gets easier, is trying to find that line. I always say, like, between the healthy level of concern and where OCD enters the group chat. And sometimes it's harder than others. But I don't know if this is right or not. I used to start with like a baseline. So like what would Montana do? Which is my husband. And that was a terrible baseline for contamination OCD because he's a Marine and they are just like not grossed out by anything, I swear. And I was like, oh gosh, I set myself up for failure, but it was I mean, it's fine. But figuring out, okay, like for example, washing your hands after you touch raw eggs, there's a healthy level of concern in that, right? I don't want to get salmonella. However, if I walk away and I'm like, ooh, I didn't get under my nails, I don't know if I did it long enough, like, and I go back, okay, then I've passed the healthy level of concern and now OCD has entered the group chat. And so I have to sit with like preschool Mackenzie, learned how to wash her hands, maybe, and we're gonna have to let it ride. But if I'm on the fence, I feel like 9 times out of 10 it is OCD, and so I just lean in to the uncomfy. What do you think, Trace?
Yeah, I would agree. And I will also have to point out that trying to figure it out, is this real or is it OCD? Is this me? Is it my value or is it OCD? Is often a compulsion. It's trying to solve it. So um we can usually recognize OCD by it feels urgent, it feels scary, it makes us anxious, it makes us feel like we better solve it now or there is a serious problem. Versus your real thoughts and values don't really feel that way. Um, you could be making, I mean, I suppose you could be making a decision about something crazy, serious, like, I don't know, life support or no life support. Okay, that could just be a real stressful question that maybe you actually feel urgent about and you're figuring out your values. Okay, pretty much short of that, I'm not so sure that you should feel super urgent about it. So it's like, do I want to do this or I don't want to do this? Well, it feels miserably crushing. That's usually OCD. But trying to figure it out by researching online, asking other people, going in circles. Now we're entering compulsion territory, and you got to be careful. And remember that just because somebody feels a certain way about something doesn't mean that that aligns with your values. We all have different values, and your values don't change. And I mean, I shouldn't say it. Your values are not changed by OCD. So, um, a good example is like when I had COVID, and my value is to give my say goodnight every night to my teenage daughter who still lives at home and give her a hug. And I was just like, I have COVID, I still want to hug her. That seems irresponsible. Like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, I got really extreme actually. And I was like, I locked myself away in the basement, which is where I was sleeping while I was like quarantined. And after a couple of days, I was like, what did the doctor say? Did he say you can't go anywhere near your family? Nope, he said wear a mask in the house. That's true. He did say that. He didn't say I couldn't go out. He didn't say I had to be locked up forever. My value is to protect my daughter. My value is to protect my family, to be loving, to be right. And at the same time, my OCD was like, you're basically you just want to kill these people. That's why you want to come out of the house. That's why you want to hug people. And so I had to really sit with that and think about that for a minute and say, you know what? I'm gonna go hug her. And because that is my value, even though it feels urgent, and yes, I want to keep her alive, and I don't want her to get COVID, but this feels extra, so
Did
I
she
went with
get
the.
COVID?
She did not.
I was
No
gonna
one in my
say.
house. No one in my house did. But it felt urgent, it felt serious, but at the same time I went with facts. What did the doctor say? Did he say you should be locked in a basement and don't come out for 2 weeks? He never said that. He said wear a mask if you go around your family and wash your hands normally.
Yeah, and I think too, well, the reason I asked that is like OCD will say that um okay, so like good things are going to happen in life and bad things are going to happen in life, and unfortunately they line up with OCD sometimes. And so like say she did get COVID, like OCD would be like, "Ha, told you." Like the reality is we don't know if that's why she got COVID or not. And so then OCD would want us to figure it out and do all these things. And so I think a good reminder too is just like there are going to be good things that happen. There's bad things that happen. If they happen to line up with OCD, it doesn't mean OCD's right. It's just life.
Yeah, things happen. That's exactly right. So our next question, do no CD therapists typically have ERP planned before a session? Like when I show up, does the therapist usually have a game plan for the day? That's a great question. So part of our early work and ongoing work together as a therapist with you is actually to come up with ERP together. So we would never just have you walk in and just be like, surprise. Dun, dun, dun. I shouldn't say never, but um, I suppose it could happen, but that is not standard practice. No. Um, so what we do is we come up together with like, okay, let's talk about things that are triggering to you, number one. And then what we do is we ask you, how triggering and disturbing is it? How anxious does this make you? And what we do is we build what we call the hierarchy. Sometimes we call it a fear ladder, but it starts with what's the smallest amount of anxiety you would have around this. So let's just say it was about going to a sauna. It could be like, well, going to a sauna sounds scary. Yes. Sounds like you don't want to do it because of germs. Yes. Okay. Well, what if we just thought about it? What if we just imagined sitting in a sauna filled with people that were sweating and wearing bathing suits? Okay. And that would be number one. And you would know about this because you're the one that tells us how anxious it makes you. We don't decide this where we ask you. And if we were to ever say something like, well, what would you think about, I don't know, touching the outside of a sauna with your finger? And you would say, well, I guess that feels just a little tiny bit scarier than thinking about it. Then that would go next on your hierarchy. And we'd say, okay, well, we're going to work our way from thinking about it to touching the outside with your finger. And then we would keep building it from there together. And like, let's just say I was like, oh, well, why don't you just go, I don't know, spend an hour in a sauna? And you were like, nope, thanks anyway.
I also don't feel
Wouldn't
like
you?
you should ever spend an
I
hour
feel
in.
like it's a
I
terrible
feel like there's
idea.
a time limit. Yeah.
Is there? Yeah, I don't know what it is. So it
I don't
sounds
either. You're the one that just went.
I'm not an expert. I'm just somebody that went. Ugh. Anyway, but then and you said no thanks. That sounds terrible. We wouldn't write it down. We would say that's fine. You don't have to do that. Let's think of something else. How do you feel about spending 5 minutes in a sauna? And you would say, okay, 5 minutes in a sauna. That sounds like it's about a 5 out of 10 in anxiety provoking. And then we would say, okay, well then you know what? Let's put it on there. And we start at the bottom when it comes to ear. We start way at the bottom and we work our way up. And by the time you get up to the higher ones, they don't feel as difficult as they used to. So, yeah, can your therapist come up with something in advance? Sure, but it would never be a surprise in terms of like, wow, we're just doing this thing you've never thought of before. And you can always say no, also. I might have a good video that I came like, hey, you know what? Since I last saw you, I saw a video on saunas. Would you be willing to watch that with me today? People in Osana? Like, sure, man, you could say yes or no. So that might be where somebody maybe would come up with something in advance.
Yeah, and two, I think it's so important to like be open and honest with your therapist. I remember like having this like internal like battle with myself. It's like I knew the things that I needed to tell them, but like I was like, oh shoot, if I tell them, I'm gonna have to do it. And like it's important too, right? Because we can't work on those things if we don't talk about it. And like it was just such a good, I mean, I had an amazing therapist truly. And just like the more open I was willing to like have my husband come into session so then he could stop accommodating OCD. Like it's so beneficial, so incredibly beneficial. And I never felt like you always start small. And if something like sometimes I would have something at like an 8 and I would be like, actually, that's probably now like a 4. Or like I had something at a 4 that I was like, you know what? I think that's actually an 8. And that was always just so good to know that you could like have that open line of communication and also just navigate through that with some.
Yes, and know that we insist you go slow. I think some people are like, fine, I'll do all the things right now immediately and get better. And it's like, no, the purpose, which I think is the most important thing, is to understand why ERP works. ERP helps you gradually expose yourself to the idea of or to whatever it is that you're freaking out about in your head with your OCD and learned that it's not as scary as you thought, or it's not as likely as you thought, or it's just completely outlandish and that you can sit with the anxiety of that without compulsing. So the RP, the response prevention part of ERP, is you learning different ways to behave your way into well-managed OCD. And I think that's the big thing. Exposure therapy does not work. That's a therapy where all you do is exposures. That doesn't work. Habituation, or the part where your brain learns when I'm triggered by whatever this thing is, I don't have to freak out. It's not as serious as I thought. That's the whole purpose of ERP therapy. So, for instance, like with me, I have like I have suicidal and homicidal OCD. So, I used to get a thought like, "Oh my gosh, like what if you throw yourself out of a window? What if you drive your car off the road? What if you're going to do this thing? Oh, you feel it like, oh, you're going to do it." Um, and I used to freak out, obviously, because like who wants to do all that stuff? And it was like, do you want to do it? Ah, freaking out. But because of ERP therapy, it's not that the thoughts go away, but the intensity of the intrusive thoughts and the intensity of the anxiety you feel go down with time. So I will just be walking around the world like any other day, and I promise you, I cannot be near knives without going, you're gonna shove that in your neck. It just, I don't know what it is. It's just this thing. It's just, you're gonna put this in your neck. And so in the past, maybe I wouldn't go near knives. Maybe I would have someone else cut veggies. Now I will pick up a knife. I will use the knife. I will allow the thoughts to be there. I have done enough ERP to know that I'm not going to stab myself in the neck, even though I have intrusive thoughts and images and urges about it. But if I wanted to, it's not that hard. So just something to sort of think about.
Well, yeah, and like that, I think that's such a helpful, like that was such a light bulb moment for me that the obsession, well, one that, yeah, the exposure is part of it, but then the response prevention is, can't get to recovery without that piece. But then also that the obsessions, like you hear it so much, even in support groups, like if I could just get rid of this thought, if I could just get rid of this image. And like the reality is the obsession isn't the issue. Our response is, the compulsion is. And I think there's a healthy level of understanding every human being on the planet has intrusive thoughts, images, and urges. We just our reaction is faulty to it. Like we don't allow them to just be. We try to figure it out. I always think my OCD probably, like when I have an intrusive thought, I think of like a Criminal Minds board where they have like the thought is going to be in the center, and then I'm going to have all this white string like, why did I think about this? Because of this, because of this, because of this, and we don't have to do that. It can just be there. Maybe I want to drive my car off the bridge, maybe I don't. Oh well.
Exactly, exactly. And then with time, you just learn that you can be around all these things, you can do these things. I'll even show you on my bookshelf, unlike most people's bookshelves, I always have a knife. Why? Because I did really good ERP and I'm not worried about it, so I just leave it there.
You're also
Just
prepared for intruders.
preparing for intruders and this is just something that over time I was like, yeah, like it doesn't trigger me at all. I'm currently having the thought right now that because I touched it, it's like, oh, you're gonna put it in your neck. I'm like, all right. And that's where practicing the response prevention over and over and over again gives you that power back so that OCD doesn't own you. Next question, is OCD something a person will have all their life, but it only shows up later? Can it gradually develop over time? That's a great question. So, a couple of things about that. Once you have OCD, you have it forever. That's number one. Number two, it can develop anytime. So, there's early onset OCD. I've treated people who are 4 years old that have OCD. My OCD started at 4. There's late onset OCD where somebody gets it later in life. There's a variety of ways that this can happen. It's not really like a development. It's just you have it or you don't have it. It is a it is a complicated sort of issue in your brain that it's not curable, but it's manageable with ERP. So, um, and what if you're going to have something forever, you might as well learn how to manage it, right? Like, And the thing is, there's sort of different intensities. There's not a special number. There's not like, I have intensity level 42. But there are people that have OCD that's just, it's like, it's not impairing your life, right? It's just, it's annoying, but people can choose to get treatment or not get treatment. And there are people who are totally crushed by it and their whole lives are ruined. Like me and Mackenzie had before we got treated. Yay!
Yay!
Yeah, where we ended up, in hot mess because it wasn't treated and it was crushing our lives. And so yeah, I guess that's really in a nutshell answers that question. Um, so is ERP totally different from CBT? Great question. CBT is an umbrella. Cognitive behavioral therapy, imagine it as an umbrella term, um, like grocery store. If I said grocery store, that would mean there's a lot of different grocery stores. There's a lot of different types of groceries inside of a grocery store. CBT is this umbrella term. It's a cognitive behavioral therapy. Pure CBT therapy, just pure by itself CBT therapy, it does not work for OCD because it makes you basically say, oh, you have this faulty logic. So if we say, oh, here, identify your faulty thinking, and then we give you logic, and then it'll correct it, and then you won't have OCD anymore. That is not true, by the way. That's never been true. It doesn't work. It's not a faulty logic problem. It's a whole thing going on.
The
Um,
feeling problem.
yeah, it's like there's electric problem. It's like it's a whole thing. It's a neurobiological problem. ERP is one of the therapies underneath the umbrella of CBT, but it is not CBT. So it is 100% different than purely operating CBT versus ERP. All right, you want to take this one?
Yes. Wait, am I doing the top? The
Something I want to
Yeah.
focus on.
All right, so this one says something I want to focus on with the start of the new year is being more cognizant and aware of my internal anxieties. With my newfound awareness, it feels like my anxieties are coming from an over-preparedness of working around my partner's triggers, outwardly facing anxieties. Do you have suggestions on how one could work around these internal anxieties? I don't know why this question is confusing me right now. I'm like,
For you.
what?
Well, let's see.
But
So, yeah, let's see. What are we talking about here? So basically, this person has become aware of their anxieties.
well, I mean, I could say, and I don't know if this is what this is as you're reading it, I mean, with obsessive compulsive disorder, we're so hyper fixated and hyper focused on everything. And like we're always scanning for danger, or what OCD says is dangerous. And I think it's just there's anything can be triggering for OCD. So it's really like sitting with the if and when something makes me anxious, then I'm gonna have to handle it when I get there instead of, oh no, what if this makes me anxious? What if this makes me, I'm noticing this, this is making me anxious. Like, I feel like it's a very big, like, perspective switch. I don't know. What do you think, Trace?
Yeah, I would agree. And it says here, feeling like the anxieties are coming from an over preparedness of working around my partner's triggers and outwardly facing anxieties. Um, which, again, us over preparing for anything, that's going to make us anxious. We can't avoid um necessarily triggering other people all the time. Just like nobody can avoid triggering us all of the time. So I think it's just really important to think about just sort of having a healthy balance. My partner happens to have OCD, and I trigger him on purpose because it's good for him.
Well, and that could be something we talk about all the time is like trigger warnings are good for lots of things, but they're not good for OCD because anything can be triggering for OCD. And if we try to like have a warning around it, then we're avoiding it. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, and fun fact, Mackenzie and I, outside of NOCD, we trigger each other on purpose because it's good for us. So if she is afraid of something, I will I will push her on it because it helps her, and she does the same for me. So, um,
Yes. It
yeah,
should be a new love language. It should be added to the,
yeah, helps
yeah.
us practice our ERP together. Uh,
Accountability. It holds us accountable.
Accountability, that's right. Um, Ah, follow up on last question. I've done a few ERP sessions. I think something I have trouble with is gauging how much anxiety I feel. For example, I kind of gauge my anxiety off of sensory motor symptoms like heart rate. Sometimes when I've been doing exposures, I haven't felt any physical symptoms, which makes it feel hard for me to figure out where I am on a scale of 1 to 10. Any tips to understand different anxiety levels? Oh, yeah, actually, there's so many options for this. I love this.
Yeah, well, fun fact too. I remember one of the first exposures I did was like around the anticipatory. So like just thinking about driving on like a California freeway. And she was like, okay, like what level of anxiety does that give you? And I can't remember. We'll say I said 10 because it probably did. And then you like sat with that and you just allowed it to be there. And I remember like sitting there and I was like opening my eye and I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be feeling right now. I don't know. And I was like, I don't know if this is doing, but that was some of the most beneficial things because it one helped me like get comfortable with the idea of doing that. And like it's a trickle down effect. And instead of really focusing on, I mean, you do focus on it, but sometimes I think you don't even know that exposures are triggering and you don't always know like like I didn't know how beneficial that would be in the in that moment. I don't, that doesn't really make that much
Yeah.
sense, but
No. Yeah, it's totally confusing. Nobody knows what you're talking about. It's crazy. Just kidding. I also want to say this. Sometimes we just use a different scale. So some people use a 1 to 10. I don't use the 1 to 10 for myself because I struggle with what's a 6 versus a 7. I don't know, 4 versus a
six,
5.
seven.
Not really sure. So a lot of times what I'll do when I'm working with people is give them a different scale that feels easier to describe, like high, medium, low anxiety. I like to use my five-fingered hand and go high, medium, low, and then on the ends are extra high, extra low. So extra high, high, medium, low, extra low. And so if you're working with somebody and they're asking you on a 1 to 10 scale and you're like, I don't know, it doesn't feel right, you can say, can we do something that I can maybe just helps me describe it better? Also happens when I work with kids. Sometimes I use like the little faces.
Green, yellow, red.
Or like
Yeah.
the little like face chart where it's like smiling, like medium, like and then
Literally,
like
that's what works best for me. Like the kid version is what I need. My brain needs that. Yeah.
yeah, it's fine. I've worked with kids where they're like, no, I don't want to do that either, and I'm like, thumbs up, thumbs sideways, thumbs down. So there's different ways if you're struggling to identify with a scale, have your therapist work with a different scale.
There's a question on here that I wanted to, oh, wait, where'd it go? Oh, one thing that I've been wanting to do is contribute to the NOCD community, but I've been very nervous to do it because I don't want to be triggered or be judged. Do you have any tips on working through that? Well, sounds like a really good exposure because if we're worried about if we're nervous to do it and we're worried about being triggered, then do it, right? But I think one of the coolest things, like I'm assuming like No CD community, we're talking about the app, and there's so like Tracie was saying earlier, it's just such a good opportunity to get a sense of community and get a sense of feeling less alone and more understood. And you can you get to choose your takeaway. You can customize the feed. You can have it so it's just tools for your therapist. You can filter things out until you're ready. But you can also post anonymously as well. But yeah, I think especially with OCD, like one, we're not gonna you get to share what's going on in your head without being judged. That's really the coolest thing about it. And you, yeah, open yourself up to be triggered, but that's good, right? That's a good thing.
Right. Well, and and I think it's also about, like you said, you can do anonymous, you can do whatever. And when people are wanting to interact with the community, there's different ways that this can happen. I know when I first started my Tabby Tracie Instagram, and I was like, I'm going to be talking about things, and there's definitely going to be some trolls out there that are going to say something. It's
Yeah.
always a troll. For every great comment you have, there's a troll somewhere. And you know what? That's okay. That just means that, you just got to have thick skin if you're going to do something like post about stuff and people are going to say stuff. But in our community, guess what? There's all kinds of people. There's people saying things. You could always start by posting anonymously, and then you can move forward with, trying to do things differently. You're going to get all kinds of reactions. So, yeah, so that's just something to think about. But yeah, I mean, people appreciate that people are sharing. Judgment exists everywhere. I mean, we can't walk outside without somebody being like, ew, your hair, like, ew, your judgment. So there's that.
Also, it shows too, like, I mean, yeah, and sharing on Instagram, like, versus like, yeah, you're gonna get trolly people who just like have absolutely no idea what they're talking about, and definitely learning to, like, that's so unfortunate that you felt the need to type that. That's so unfortunate that you've,
Yeah, I'm
like,
sorry about that.
what that, yeah, that's a them problem, not a you problem, and you get better about that too.
Yes. I do want to address, is that the same as inference-based cognitive behavioral therapy, or ICBT? Fun fact about ICBT, or inference-based cognitive behavioral therapy, is it is not an evidence-based practice currently. It does not have enough research that has been backed by meta-analysis and longitudinal studies, which that's the kinds of stuff that makes something an evidence-based treatment. There are some things that have been done around that, but it's one of the reasons, NOCD does not use that at this time. ERP therapy has over 60 years of research and efficacy in showing that it does work and does help people stay better. So just wanted to clear that one up real quickly. Um, all right. Any tips for when two or more people in a group with OCD are interacting or relating?
Mhm.
And OCD is a prominent feature, especially in terms of bettering self goals and perfection. That's all
Hold
I have.
each other accountable.
I was gonna say, is this like people who have out of control OCD versus, I
Yeah.
mean, I guess that's different. Like somebody's like help, like seeking reassurance, counseling, do you think it's okay that I touched this thing? Do you think it's okay that I said this thing? Do you think that I'm actually going to stab somebody today, Mackenzie? And you're like, no, no, don't worry about it. Versus I'm like, I was thinking about that. And you say, you might. I'm like, maybe.
Well, yeah, I mean, it depends. Like if you're in a, like if it's two people that are going into, exposure response therapy and they know what they need to be doing, and then you can, like Tracy was saying earlier, like one of my most favorite friendships and relationships that I have in the whole world is mine with Tracy, or two of my other friends that work with NOCD too, because you get it and you understand it, but you also know what you need to do to help people. And you've decided that you're going to help people. So that means waking up to a picture of a crashing plane or waking up to whatever it is. But then there's people that, you know, are in a completely different headspace. And then you have to figure out what works best for you and that situation. But I think having a conversation, like stopping accommodating, like for each person, right? Understanding what you're doing to accommodate someone's OCD and what they're doing to accommodate yours, and try to come up with a plan to not do that.
Absolutely. Like when Mackenzie calls and says, maybe I'm not going to go to New Orleans with no CD because what if my plane crashes? And then I was like, well, then I guess it won't matter because your plane crashed and you'll be dead. And she's like, all right, sounds like I should probably go. Um, yeah, there was
But
that.
really, that helped me so
And it
much.
helped her, and she went. If she
Even though
wasn't
I
doing
wanted to
well,
kill her, but yeah.
right, if she wasn't in treatment yet, that wouldn't be what I would have said. I would have been like, "Well, Mackenzie, there are chances that we take every day, but have you been to New Orleans? Have you been on a trip to New Orleans with a company? Do you want to hug me in person? All right, sounds like you're going to go, and we're going to face our fears together." So I think it's you can temper what it is that you say based on those things. And yes, Mackenzie truly did wake up to a gif of.
I actually was on the plane and got another
Oh,
one. So that was lovely. Yeah.
that's true. When she was boarding the plane, I may have
Crashing. Or
said
hope you
crash.
don't crash.
Hope you don't crash.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
That's
true.
fun.
OCD makes me feel exhausted a lot of times. How do I stop the chatter, live with the energy? I feel like this is constant chatter, feeling the anxiety exhausts me. So there's a
Ooh.
biological explanation for that too. Can we talk
Okay,
about
you give that, and then I'll give the non.
the non-boring answer to
Yeah,
that? Okay,
yeah.
I'll say the boring, real like facts about biology. Ugh.
Let's hear
So
it.
when you get triggered by OCD intrusions, it sets off the same alarm system in your brain that real emergencies set off. So right now, if you wherever you are, if you heard, I don't know, glass breaking and somebody scream, your brain is set up to go react, and you get this dump of chemicals. You get all kinds of stuff. You get adrenaline, you get serotonin, a lot of different, I won't say all the words since it's going to get really boring, but a lot of things. I call it the chemical shower. You just get showered in these reaction chemicals, which make you get up and run from a fire or grab your cat from the crashing roof. I don't know, whatever it is, whatever your emergency is. um, and then afterward, when you're like, okay, I did that, you're like, oh, I'm exhausted. That was a whole thing. Now I'm drained because you actually are. So when you have OCD and you are triggered all day long, number one, you can feel more tired than other people because of that chemical reaction and that. But when you say, how do I stop the chatter? We can't stop the chatter because the chatter is what OCD is. OCD is, I call it junk mail in your inbox. How do you stop that? You can't. You wish that you could stop. If I was like, you know what? How do I stop the mail person from delivering me junk mail? I can't. All I can do is learn to ignore it and throw it away when it arrives. And so that helps you not interact with it. When you don't interact with it by compulsing, you also trigger yourself less and you make it less exhausting. Mackenzie.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. It's I can't remember if it was you. This came up in a support group once too. It was like, okay, so when do the thoughts stop? And like my response was like, never. But that sounds so daunting, but it's quite the opposite because as somebody who has been, I always say like rock bottom's basement because I went like past rock bottom. It was just like, way down there in the who knows. Um, I've been there, right? And the nothing has changed as far as the intrusive thoughts or the images or the urges that I experience. My reaction has changed, and my reaction was the problem. And so you become like accepting of these things. It's not that I'm saying I am this, I am that. You become more comfortable in it. And somebody asked, I think somebody was telling me like they asked you one time, it was like, if we had, and I say like if I had a counter of like the number of times my OCD was triggered in a day, I would break the counter. Like it happens all the time. It's just that I'm actively choosing to lean into the uncertainty and the uncomfortable versus feeding that monster to which I wake up every day and I tell myself that OCD cannot function without my participation. And it's literally I mean, it's the truth. Like it can't continue to be fueled if I don't give it that fuel with the compulsions.
Correct. That's right. And note that right now, while you find these thoughts very distressing, ERP helps you learn how to make it feel less distressing, which is how I walk around going, you're going to stab yourself in the neck. And I don't feel distressed by that thought. Actually, it's just a thought. It used to feel distressing. So know that you can get thoughts without that level of distress you feel right now. So that's really important.
Yeah,
Um,
and understanding like it's not, I mean, there does my anxiety rise sometime? Like if a mouse runs past me, do I want to like crawl in a hole and die? Absolutely. But it lasts a lot less time and I'm not throwing everything away. I'm not doing all of these things. Like it's still uncomfortable. I always like if uncertainty was a ride at an amusement park, like I would not be first. I would be pushing Tracie to like go ahead of me. Like yeah, y'all go ahead. Like I'll be back here. Like I'm not gonna like it's not like I don't want to, fast pass to anxiety, like in sitting in uncertainty, but I'll do it. I'm like, I'll do it. I'll go. I'll hang out because I know I need to. But
That's right. All right.
definitely pushing you on first.
And I would love that. Um, all right, let's see. We've got a little bit of time. I would like to answer this one. I feel as though my OCD is so much more prominent ever since beginning ERP. I started about a month and a half ago, and it's getting easier, but still feels hard. Makes me want to give up sometimes, go back to doing compulsions. I know it's not the cure, but life feels weird since starting ERP. Any advice or hope, how to keep hope? And I can't say enough that it feels more prominent because you're facing it, right? I also like to remember, what brought you in. You were clearly miserable enough through your compulsing that you needed to come in and get and have some sort of intervention. Um, and so it can feel harder in the beginning, but it gets easier as you go on. It just, like you said, you've been in it a month and a half. That's just like scratching the surface. But it's a road, right? It's a journey, and you're at the beginning of the journey. It's like when you first learn how to drive. I don't know about y'all, but like I was freaking out about making left turns. I wasn't sure if I was turning into the correct lane. I was just in panic mode. And now I never think about it, right? Just like anything else, you got to build the muscle for it. So here's your hope, okay? And what to do. If you went back to compulsing, you would be feeding it and you would become just as bad as it was before you came in, B, worse over time because you were feeding it. So people like me and Mackenzie, maybe, when we were feeding it because we thought that was easier, we ended up in mental hospitals. Does everybody end up in mental hospitals? No, they do not. But some of us do because we feed it to the point that we don't even know what is real anymore. Because it just got that intense. Like I really thought I was going to kill myself. I really, really thought this, and I believed it, right? Because I didn't know the difference between my thoughts and what was happening. And I was very uncomfortable in the beginning of ERP facing this. But I stuck through it, and now I have the thoughts. I don't even care about it. I mean, it comes up in like 42 different ways every day. It's like, you're gonna do this or throw yourself out a window. I'm like, yeah, who cares? Um, so
Well,
stick
and
with it.
yeah, and it is like the devil you know versus the devil you don't. And that, like, kind of, I was kind of talking about it earlier. We get comfortable we almost get comfortable in the uncomfortable that is OCD. And it's like, this is hard, this is draining, but I know it. Like, versus this is hard, this is draining, and this is gonna save me, And so it really, I think about it like a video game. It's like you have to choose your hard, like, which one are we gonna do? Um, and it is so incredibly worth it to choose the hard that gets you um somewhere.
Yeah.
I can't even.
Yeah, I would never go back in time, undo all of the ERP work I've done, and go back to compulsing because I wouldn't be living life right now. Likely, I wouldn't be alive, to be honest with you, because that was a miserable, miserable life. And living a life with well-controlled OCD is amazing. And so it's always worth it. We got to do a little bit of hard work to get there, um, just like
Yeah.
everything.
Well,
So,
and it's too, like, you can have all the resources, you can have all the support, but until you're willing to do it, like I did ERP the first time and I was like, Psh, eh, yeah, sure. And nothing changed, right? It wasn't until I was like, you know what? I mean, what really truly happened was my world I had created became scarier than OCD. And I was like, no, no. But it wasn't until I like pushed myself over that like proverbial threshold that change started happening.
yep, I would say stick with it. It gets easier. You're still in the very beginning. It definitely gets easier. Oh, this is one of my favorites. What if you've had intrusive thoughts that don't feel intrusive, almost confusing, as if you want the thoughts, especially if they're harm related, but you still recognize them as intrusive, realize how upsetting they are. best way to deal with those moments.
Be like more like an urge.
Yeah, I kind of love this because I have harm OCD. I can't think of a day that's gone by in years where I haven't thought of harming my loved ones or random people I'm around who I don't even know. Could be anyone. And sometimes OCD wants you to believe that you want to do this. Sometimes OCD doesn't always show up as what if you do this? What if sometimes it's like you want to do this, you
Yeah,
love this,
you should do it.
you should. And you might even feel urges that are intrusive. And we treat those the exact same way with ERP. We get through it. Um, Sometimes it's really extremely violent, and you're like, how could I have these kinds of thoughts? Because you have OCD. I have shared this in my group actually, but for months now, I had the intrusive, just I'm going to kill my husband in his sleep with a hammer in his face. And
R.I.P. Phil.
yeah, and it feels like I want to. OCD is like, yeah, because maybe the two things aren't going right. So probably you really want to do this and why wouldn't you actually? Because then you add, all this stuff and it sounds like for some people that could get confusing. Um, but I'm aware that I have harm OCD. I'm aware that if I wanted to kill him in my sleep, I certainly could because, he'd be asleep. Seems like the easiest time. Which of course OCD will be like, and you keep saying that it's the easiest time when they're asleep. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's just a fact. Seems like it better than if they're running away, right? If I were truly a murderer. However, he's lived every day through these thoughts because clearly it's not what I'm going to do.
So
Um,
basically, you're the world's worst serial killer.
I am the worst, all the things OCD says I'm going to do.
The
Um,
worst because you
And
can't do it.
that's one of the reasons why I keep my knife here, is for my harm OCD thoughts about others and myself. So we don't try to question, is this what I really want to do? Is it intrusive? You know what? If it's not something you're actively moving toward doing because it sounds amazing, you just roll with it. If I ever wake up and I'm like, oh man, I hate him. You know what? Let me go get whatever, I don't know, a hammer. And and I'm like, yeah, and I just run off and get a hammer and I'm smiling and I can't believe how amazing it sounds. I have crossed the line into murder, but that is not OCD. That is a different problem. And people with OCD don't cross over into reality doing things that are intrusive. They go against our values, no matter how they're coming up. So that's good.
Yeah, like think about it as endearing because the reason it's affecting you so much is because of how much you love him.
Yep. So we only have a couple more minutes, but
Here, I'll pick one more.
yeah.
Oh, okay. How do you get better at discerning between your gut feeling and OCD? I used to hate, oh my gosh, hate's a strong word, but like when people be like, trust your gut. And I was like, do you know my gut? Like, cause
Do
like,
you have OCD? Do you have OCD gut? Because yeah.
yeah. Like, I think that with decision making, like that is something my OCD really, really loves to latch onto. And it's being comfortable enough and confident enough in a decision or, comfortable enough and confident enough in that gut feeling and knowing that there's not going to be this giant flashing neon sign, Nashville style sign that comes down and it's like, this is the right one. Like that would be very helpful. But it doesn't happen. It's never going to happen. And also, I think like checking the intention behind things too is really helpful as well. Well, that's more when I'm trying to figure out if something is compulsive or like necessary. Oh gosh, daddy daycare is failing out there. My kids are being loud. But yeah, that was my little. Your turn.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with all of the things that you said, actually.
I know
It was
I'm
so perfect that I don't have anything to add to that. That's how weird it is. But um just to like note, somebody said I'm gonna limit my time on social media and back away when my gurus start a new trend. So tired of being the target of all these ads these days. You know what? Heard, because fun fact, while I do post on social media, I don't actually read social media. I do read NoCD. I do read like a couple of things, but I am not, I'm like skip, 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 skip. Like I don't read all that stuff because there's so much nutty stuff out there that's unhelpful and that is yeah, just unhelpful and wacky. If anyone that's like, come to my weekend workshop, get this special glow doll, get this, I don't know, weird watch, get this special,
Get this intrusive thought catcher.
oh yeah, an intrusive thought catcher, a special, I don't know, an app that helps you never have OCD again or something weird like that. Yeah, I'm just like, I don't have to. This is just
Now
exhausting.
all I have in my head is like an infomercial of like a dream catcher-esque thing that like you can get rid of your intrusive thoughts with this
See that?
thought
That's gonna be our
catcher.
next thing. We're gonna throw that. Those people trying to prey upon the people who are suffering, and I hate that. And I'm sorry, and I think that's a great idea to limit your time on that and save your focus to things that are helpful. Um, like, for instance, I just want to say, number one, thank you so much for coming today because you know what? It's not easy to share questions. It's not even easy sometimes to listen. And I can appreciate that. I think in the past, if somebody was talking about harm or things that were triggering to my OCD, I wouldn't even have wanted to listen. So, you know,
La la la.
yeah, even though it's like in my head. So just want to say, thank you for attending. There's always hope even if you've tried something before and you're like, it didn't work, just remember, just like any other therapy, it's never going to work for you. You have to work it, You have to use these tools when you go home at the end of the day. You have to use these tools, and you have to learn the right tools. And so if you've been in all the wrong therapies and those people told you they were specialists and you didn't get better, and you haven't gone to NOCD for ERP therapy and really given it a shot, we highly encourage you to do that. Seek evidence-based care. Be careful of all the things out there that say they're evidence-based care and give you weird fake research or very limited research studies. And know what you are getting yourself into because that is exactly how I ended up in 29 mental hospitals because of people who thought they were professionals and clearly were not. They didn't know anything about OCD. Um, so a sort of, just putting it out there. If you're interested, if you would like to find out more, even just to ask questions, you can go to nocd.com. You can schedule a free call and you can ask all the questions you have, and our fabulous care team is there waiting to answer your questions, to find out more. And if you indeed sign up, Mackenzie and I look forward to maybe seeing you in one of our many support groups where
Yay.
you can join our community and find help. Reminder, we have a free app. You can download it for free. The NoCD app, you can join the community. You could just read it. You could post in it. You can hear about fun events like this because those get posted. But yeah, just never give up. There's always hope. And you know what? It's always a great day to do hard things. That's what somebody who I love dearly says, and I believe it. So thanks for coming. Thanks for being amazing, and wish you all the best.
Bye, everyone.